Laura Calk here with In Bloom Yoga and Wellness. And in today's video, I'm going to demonstrate an Ashtanga Modified Primary Series class. So Ashtanga Yoga is a dynamic and structured form of yoga that combines breath control, physical postures, and a meditative focus. While it's often viewed as a challenging practice, it also offers significant benefits, especially for beginners who commit to its structured approach. Here's why practicing yoga can be valuable. It improves physical fitness in developing strength and flexibility, cardiovascular benefits, and balance and coordination. It also is a set sequence. So it gives beginners a clear structure and it's self-paced learning. You can always modify poses to your accessibility. And Ashtanga promotes mental clarity and focus. So we are going to practice Ujjayi breathing. This is controlled breathing patterns that help calm the mind, reducing stress and anxiety while keeping you focused on breath and movement. And Ashtanga builds discipline and consistency. So I do encourage you to take your time, practice with modified poses to your level and your capability. And you really want to listen to your body. Do only what your body feels is right. Everybody is different. And also talk to your doctor before practicing Ashtanga because it can be challenging. So now let's practice Ujjayi breathing. You breathe in through your nose, out through your nose. You constrict a little of your throat to where it makes an oceany sound or like Darth Vader. So let's practice that. It's slow and steady. So Ujjayi breathing is victorious breath. So I invite you to practice Ujjayi breathing throughout this session. We're going to start with 5 Surya Namaskar A's and 5 Surya Namaskar B's. We start in Samastiti and inhale, arms up, gaze up. Exhale, forward fold for Uttanasana. Inhale, halfway lift, lung back for Ardha Uttanasana. Exhale into Chaturanga Dandasana. Tippy toe forward and down. Inhale into Urdhva Mukha Svanasana. Exhale into Adho Mukha Svanasana. Here, you'll be here for 5 counts. Deep breaths, core engaged. Gaze in between your legs. Spreading your fingers, spreading your toes. And gaze to the top of the mat. Hop, step, or float to the top of the mat. Inhale for Ardha Uttanasana. Exhale for Uttanasana. And inhale, arms up, gaze up. And hands at heart center for Samastiti. Again, inhale, arms up, gaze up. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift for Ardha Uttanasana. Exhale into Chaturanga Dandasana. Inhale into Urdhva Mukha Svanasana. Exhale into Adho Mukha Svanasana. Again, you'll be here for 5 counts. Core engaged. Lift those hips up nice and high. Deep breaths. Gaze to the top of the mat. Hop, step, or float to the top of the mat. Inhale to Ardha Uttanasana. Exhale into Uttanasana. Inhale, arms up. Gaze up. And hands at heart center for Samasthiti. Inhale, arms up, gaze up. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift for Ardha Uttanasana. Exhale into Chaturanga Dandasana. And inhale into Urdhva Mukha Svanasana. Exhale into Adho Mukha Svanasana. You'll be here for 5 counts. Lift those hips nice and high. Core engaged. Maybe you're paddling your feet, spreading your fingers, spreading your toes. Gaze to the top of the mat. Hop, step, or float to the top of the mat. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, forward fold. And inhale, arms up, gaze up. And hands at heart center for Samasthiti. And again, inhale, arms up, gaze up. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift for Ardha Uttanasana. Exhale into Chaturanga Dandasana. And inhale into Urdhva Mukha Svanasana. Exhale into Adho Mukha Svanasana. You'll be here for 5 counts. Deep breaths. Relax your shoulders away from your head. Gaze in between your legs. Lift those hips. Maybe paddling your feet. Gaze to the top of the mat. Hop, step, or float to the top of the mat. Inhale, Ardha Uttanasana. Exhale, Uttanasana. Inhale, arms up, gaze up. And hands at heart center for Samasthiti. Now we're going to do Surya Namaskar B. So inhale into Utkatasana or chair-like pose. Core engage, hips tucked under. If you can't see your toes, scooch back a little bit. Deep breaths. And forward fold for Uttanasana. Inhale, halfway lift for Ardha Uttanasana. Exhale, plant your hands down into a plank. And I'm showing here, I'm demonstrating how you can get into this pose on your feet, on your knees, and modify into a downward dog. If you need some modifications for the vinyasa and get tired on your knees, you can bring your right foot forward and inhale, rise to Virabhadrasana 1. Your weight is equally distributed between both legs. Maybe slight back bend. Core engaged. And exhale, cartwheel your hands down. And again, showing modifications here to get into downward dog. And bring your left foot forward. Inhale and rise to Virabhadrasana 1. Again, weight equally distributed between both legs. Slight back bend, shoulders up, back, and down. Exhale, cartwheel your hands down into a vinyasa of your choice. And inhale into Urdhva Mukha Svanasana. Exhale into Adho Mukha Svanasana. And you'll be here 4, 5 counts. Gaze in between your legs. Core engaged, hips up. Maybe you're shaking your head yes and no. Deep breaths. Gaze to the top of the mat. Hop, step, or float to the top of the mat. Inhale, Ardha Uttanasana. Exhale, Uttanasana. And inhale, arms up in chair-like pose. Hips tucked under, core engaged. And exhale to Samastiti. Again, into chair-like, arms up into chair-like pose. Core engaged, hips tucked under. Exhale, forward fold, Uttanasana. Inhale, halfway lift for Ardha Uttanasana. Exhale, plant your hands down into a vinyasa or Chaturanga Dandasana. Inhale into Urdhva Mukha Svanasana. Exhale into Adho Mukha Svanasana. Now bring your right leg into your chest and to the front of the mat. And rise for Virabhadrasana. 1. Maybe slight back bend. Exhale, cartwheel your hands down into a vinyasa of your choice or Chaturanga Dandasana here. Inhale into Urdhva Mukha Svanasana. Exhale into Adho Mukha Svanasana. Now bring your left foot forward, right foot flat at a 45-degree angle. Inhale, rise to Virabhadrasana 1. Exhale, cartwheel your hands down into Chaturanga Dandasana. Inhale into Urdhva Mukha Svanasana. Exhale into Adho Mukha Svanasana. Deep breaths, hips high. Gaze in between your legs. Maybe you're paddling your feet. Deep breaths. Gaze to the top of the mat. Hop, step, or float to the top of the mat. Inhale, Ardha Uttanasana. Exhale, Uttanasana. And inhale, arms up in chair-like pose. And hands at heart center for Samastiti. Again, inhale into chair-like pose. Uttanasana. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale into halfway lift. Exhale into Chaturanga Dandasana. Inhale into Urdhva Mukha Svanasana. Exhale into Adho Mukha Svanasana. Bring your right foot to the front of the mat. Left foot flat at a 45-degree angle and rise to Virabhadrasana 1. Exhale into Chaturanga Dandasana. Exhale into Adho Mukha Svanasana. Bring your left foot forward, right foot flat at a 45-degree angle. Inhale, rise to Virabhadrasana 1. Exhale, cartwheel your hands down into Chaturanga Dandasana. Inhale into Urdhva Mukha Svanasana. Exhale into Adho Mukha Svanasana. Deep breaths, core engaged. Paddling your feet, core engaged. Gaze to the top of the mat, hop, step, or float to the top of the mat. Inhale, halfway lift, lung back. Exhale, forward fold. And inhale, arms up in chair-like pose. Deep breaths. And inhale into Samasthiti. And one more time. Inhale into chair-like pose or Utkatasana. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. And exhale into Chaturanga Dandasana. And inhale into Urdhva Mukha Svanasana. Exhale into Adho Mukha Svanasana. Deep breaths. Bring your right foot forward. Rise into Virabhadrasana 1. Exhale, cartwheel your hands down. And into Chaturanga Dandasana. Inhale into Urdhva Mukha Svanasana. Exhale into Adho Mukha Svanasana. This time bring your left foot forward, right foot flat at a 45-degree angle. Rise to Virabhadrasana 1. And exhale, cartwheel your hands down to Chaturanga Dandasana. Inhale into Urdhva Mukha Svanasana. Exhale into Adho Mukha Svanasana. Deep breaths, core engaged, maybe pedaling your feet. And deep breaths, core engaged. Gaze to the top of the mat, hop, step, or float to the top of the mat. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, forward fold. And inhale, arms up in chair-like pose, hips tucked under, and hands at heart center for Samasthiti. Now to the front of the mat, your feet hip width distance apart, Pada Gustasana. And inhale, look up. Exhale, forward fold. Wrap your fingers around your big toes. Look down. Pull up with your biceps. Inhale. And exhale, forward fold. Inhale, look up. Exhale, place your hands on your hips. And inhale, place your hands under your feet for Pada Hastasana. Your weight mainly on the front of your feet. Feel that length in your hamstrings. Look up. Exhale, place your hands on your hips. Inhale, look up or rise up. Now, Samasthiti reset. Exhale, place your right leg back. Turn to the back of your mat. And reach for arms up, reach forward and down. Look up at the ceiling. We'll be here in Trikonasana for 5 counts. And inhale, rise. And turn to the back of the mat. Turn your feet and reach with your left arm forward and down. And Trikonasana on the left side. 5 counts here. Deep breaths. Deep breaths. And inhale, rise. hands on your hips. Quick transition to the back of the mat. And left hand to the inner side of your right foot for Pavrita Trikonasana, revolved triangle. If you can't get it down, you can place your left hand on your shin, right arm extended up, deep breaths. And inhale, rise and turn to the front of the mat, square the hips, and again, your right hand to the inner part, the inner side of your left foot. And here my shoulder is bothering me, so I'm not lifting my left hand arm. It's on my hip, and that is a perfectly fine modification. And inhale, rise for Samastiti. Turn to the back of the mat, right leg forward, bent, left leg extended out, right hand either on your right leg or on the outside of your foot, left arm extended out. This is Pavara Uttita Parsva Konasana. Inhale, rise on the opposite side. Right arm over your head. Extend out, nice. Left hand on the outside of your left foot. Extended side angle. Now inhale, rise, turn to the back of the mat. This time it's Parvrita Parsva Konasana. Turn the hips around. Maybe your left hand on your left elbow on your right leg, right arm extended out. Inhale, rise and turn to the opposite side and bend that left leg. Square the hips. Right arm this time is on the left leg. Left arm extended out for revolved side angle, Pavrita Parsva Konasana. Deep breaths here, deep breaths in. And to the top of the mat for Samastiti reset. Now bring your right leg back. Look up for Parasita Padottanasana. Exhale, forward fold. Place your hands down on the mat. Walk them as far back as you can. Place your hands on your hips. Inhale, lift. Exhale, forward fold. Grab a block if you can't touch the floor very easily. And inhale, place your hands on your hips. Exhale and inhale, rise to standing. Now place your elbows together behind your hips, behind your back, and forward fold. Exhale. Keep those elbows together. Deep breaths. Deep breaths. This is for Padottanasana B. Deep breaths. Inhale, lift up and rise, and grab a strap if you cannot bind behind your back. Inhale and exhale. Fold. Go as far forward as you can. Move intuitively here. Deep breaths, deep breaths. And inhale, rise. Remove the strap. Now this time you're going to inhale, arms by your side. Exhale, forward fold. Place your hands on your shins. Walk your hands down. Maybe you can grab your toes, your big toes. Deep breaths and inhale, pull up with your biceps. And exhale, forward fold. Deep breaths for Padottanasana D, wide-legged forward variations here. Inhale, look up. Exhale, hands on your hips. And inhale, rise. Back to the top of the mat for Samasthiti reset. Now bring your right leg back. Turn to the back of the mat. Bring your hands behind your back in prayer hand, or clasp your elbows and forward fold. Try not to let that front leg bend for Parsvottanasana. Deep breaths here. Deep breaths. Deep breaths. And inhale, rise. Turn to the back of the mat. And the same thing. Parsvottanasana. Exhale, forward fold. Try not to let that front leg bend. Deep breaths. Deep breaths and inhale, rise. And back to the top of the mat for Samasthiti. And then step back, grab your strap. Here I place my strap on my right leg and balance on my left. The goal is to extend that right leg out in front of you for a count of 5 breaths. Deep breaths here. I'm against the wall for support. And then extend that leg out to the right side. Deep breaths here. I do have some trouble here, but we got this with practice. Deep breaths. Deep breaths. Now bring that leg straight back out in front of you again. And it's like you're trying to fold into that leg. Deep breaths. Engage the quad, your core here. Engage your core and quads. And now release the strap and leave your leg up, free forming, keeping that engagement. Now place that right leg down and repeat the process and place a strap on your left leg. And here I move so that I have support of the wall behind me. And again, lift it forward. Deep breaths, spine nice and long. And bring that right leg out to the side. Feel that extension. Deep breaths. Trying to maintain a long spine. Deep breaths. And then bring it out in front of us again. And try to fold forward in a way, really bringing that core engaged. towards your foot, your leg. Again, I'm having trouble with this, but with time, you guys, we can do it. We can do it. And then release the strap and leave your leg up, engaged. Okay, so that's Utthita Hasta Padangusthasana. Now, let's get into Ardha Baddha Padottanasana. Here, bring our right leg into the crease of our hip. I place the strap on my toe and reach down with my right arm to eventually touch the ground, but here I'm using a block. Deep breath, deep breath. We're hinging forward. Eventually we'll be able to touch that ground. We're balancing on our left leg here. Now we're going to repeat the process standing on our right leg. So we place that left foot in the half lotus position, grab the strap, and bring our left arm up, our right arm up, and hinge forward. Deep breaths, deep breaths. You got this. You got this. Now, inhale and release the strap. And now let's get into a vinyasa. Inhale, arms up. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale into a vinyasa of your choice. Chaturanga here for me. Inhale into Urdhva Mukha Svanasana. Exhale into Adho Mukha Svanasana. Deep breaths and gaze to the top of the mat. Hop, step, or float to the top of the mat. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, forward fold. And inhale into chair-like pose or Utkatasana. Core engaged, hips tucked under. You got this. A few more breaths. And exhale to Samastiti. And now we're going to do crow pose. And y'all, I don't want to fall on my head, so I have a little pillow there. And here, bending over, placing my knees into my arms, trying to stack my hips over my arms. And you gaze forward. Do not gaze down or you will fall on your head. So gaze forward and try to lift and push out into Chaturanga Dandasana. And inhale into Urdhva Mukha Svanasana. And exhale into Adho Mukha Svanasana. And here I get rid of the pillow. Deep breaths, core engaged, hips nice and high. Deep breaths. Gaze in between your legs. Now look forward. Bring your right leg forward into Virabhadrasana. 1. Core engaged. Maybe slight back bend. Deep breaths. Deep breaths. Now turn to the back side of the mat and into Virabhadrasana. 1 with our left leg forward. Deep breaths. Now into Virabhadrasana 2. Relax your shoulders away from your head. Deep breaths. And turn to the front of the mat in Virabhadrasana 2 again. Just shift your feet and your gaze over your front middle finger. Now to the front of the mat for Samastiti reset, and inhale, arms up, gaze up. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift, and exhale into a vinyasa of your choice. Inhale into Urdhva Mukha Svanasana. Exhale into Adho Mukha Svanasana. And here we're going to transition into our seated poses. So I'm grabbing my blocks to lift myself a little bit higher to be able to swing through crisscross legs into Dandasana. So we're going to start in Dandasana. Our feet, our legs straight in front of us, toes towards us, arms by your side. Now relax your shoulders away from your head, core engaged, and deep breaths here, deep breaths. Now we're going to get into Paschimottanasana A. So inhale, arms up, exhale, forward fold. Grab your big toe if possible with your thumb and index finger. Inhale and lengthen, and exhale, fold again. And then we're going to get into Paschimottanasana B. So with Paschimottanasana B, we inhale and grab our feet, release the neck as we fold forward, core engaged with the fold, and inhale and lengthen the back, and then exhale, fold a little further if possible. If you cannot grab your feet here, you can always use your strap, and with Paschimottanasana C, you grab your hands, the back of your hands are behind your or under your feet, and I am using my strap here. So inhale, lengthen, and exhale, fold a little further if possible. And deep breaths, deep breaths. And now we go into a vinyasa. And exhale into the chaturanga. Inhale into Urdhva Mukha Svanasana. Exhale into Adho Mukha Svanasana, downward dog. And then we to slide through again into a seated position. So here, extend your legs out and push up onto your hands into Purvottanasana, upward plank. Let your head fall back as you lift your chest. Now, back into a vinyasa of your choice. Inhale into Urdhva Mukha Svanasana. Exhale into Adho Mukha Svanasana. Now, use your blocks again to slide through into a seated position, and this time I'm facing the camera. Bring your right leg up into the lotus position to your hip. Grab your strap and place it around the back, and take your right arm, lift up, and exhale, forward fold. So this is what we were doing earlier, but standing. This is Ardha Baddha Eka Pada Paschimottanasana. Now do it on the opposite side. It's a nice stretch in the in the hips and hamstrings. So inhale tall, exhale forward fold. Deep breaths, deep breaths, deep breaths. And then release, inhale, release, and back into a vinyasa of your choice. Inhale into Urdhva Mukha Svanasana, exhale Adho Mukha Svanasana. Use your blocks to slide through again. And next is Trianga Mukha Ekapada Paschimottanasana. Bring your right leg back, almost like you're sitting on it. And inhale, reach up, exhale, forward fold. Breathing, deep breaths. And let's do the same thing on the opposite side. I like to use a block here, give me more height and help me feel more even. So inhale tall, exhale forward fold. Deep breaths, deep breaths. Deep breaths and release and into another vinyasa. And here I'm doing a modification for a vinyasa. And I'm getting back to a seated position with my legs out in front of me. The next pose is Janu Sirsasana A. So your right foot into your left thigh. And you inhale tall, exhale forward fold. Inhale tall and lengthen the spine and exhale forward fold. Deep breaths, deep breaths, deep breaths. Inhale, release, and now do the opposite side. So right, left foot into your right thigh. And inhale long, exhale forward fold. Inhale long, lengthen your spine, exhale forward fold. Deep breaths, deep breaths. And now release. And it's time for Janu Sirsha. Oh, it's time for another vinyasa. And I'm going to do the modified version again. I'm getting tired here, y'all, but it's okay. We're going to get through this. So Janu Sirsasana B. Here, your right foot is here. You're going to sit on your right foot, kind of like a bicycle seat. And again, the same thing. Inhale tall, exhale forward fold. Inhale, lengthen your back. Exhale, forward fold. Deep breaths, deep breaths, deep breaths, and release. And then let's do the opposite side. This is Janu Sirsasana B. Inhale, forward. Inhale, lift. Exhale, forward, fold. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale, forward, fold. Deep breaths. Deep breaths. And release. And vinyasa. I'm doing my modified vinyasa here. So come back with your legs extended out. And this time we're onto Janu Shasana C. So we use our back toe onto the inside of our thigh. So we place our right foot, the toes on the floor, up against our left thigh. And I have to use a block to get into this position. It's really hard on my toes, my feet. And I have a block under my leg there. So inhale, tall, exhale, forward fold. Inhale, tall, lengthen, and exhale, forward fold. And now we're going to do the opposite side. So a left foot and toes on the floor and the upper foot into the thigh. And inhale, lengthen, exhale, forward fold. Inhale, lengthen, and exhale, forward fold some more. And release, and back into another vinyasa. So into a plank, exhale, and inhale into Urdhva Mukha Svanasana, exhale into Adho Mukha Svanasana. And again, using my blocks, I slide through into a seated position. Now extend your legs out for Marichanasana A. Right leg comes up, bend that knee, pull forward with your right hand and bind behind your leg. Marichanasana A. Deep breaths, release, and opposite side. Have about a foot in between your foot and your leg and bind behind your back. Deep breaths, and release the bind. And get into a vinyasa. So plank position, inhale into Urdhva Mukha Svanasana, exhale into Adho Mukha Svanasana. And again, we slide through and back into a seated position. Now bring your right leg into a lotus position in your hip. As you bend your left knee and reach forward with your right hand and reach around your leg. Deep breaths, and release. Now let's same thing on the right side, on the left side, Marichanasana B. reach around that leg. You might want to use a strap if you need to. So right leg in lotus position, left knee bent, and reach forward with your right arm and around the knee if possible. Very difficult pose. Now release the bind and a modified vinyasa here. Actually, into a upward dog and downward dog. Deep breaths. Now back into a seated position for Mirshanasana C. So bend your right leg, and as a modified version, wrap your left arm either around your right knee or on top of it and push it for a nice twist. So we're twisting the torso here, keeping the spine long. And here opposite side. Feel that nice twist with your right elbow, using the support of your left knee to help twist that torso. Deep breaths, keeping your spine nice and long. Deep breaths. Now release, and again into another vinyasa. And into a plank, and inhale into Urdhva Mukha Svanasana. Exhale into Adho Mukha Svanasana. Here we're getting into Setu Bandhasana. So in a supine position, your knees bent, arms by your side. Bring your sit bones, bring your feet up to your sit bones, and lift into your feet. Push down on your hands, on arms. Deep breaths. Bring your shoulder blades together. Deep breaths. And exhale, release. And reposition your feet if necessary. And again, inhale, lift, push down with your arms and your feet, and bind your hands together underneath you if possible. Deep breaths, and release. This time, if you would like, you can get into the wheel pose. With wheel pose, bring your arms by your side and dig deep into your feet and hands to lift yourself up into a nice chest opener. Engage your thighs and release. Now sit up and get into a seated position for a forward fold to reset the spine. Deep breaths. For Paschimottanasana. Deep breaths. And now we're going to prepare for shoulder stands.
Shoulder stand.
But first, let's do a vinyasa. So inhale Urdhva Mukha Svanasana, exhale Adho Mukha Svanasana. And into a seated position on your back. And bring your legs up. Hold yourself up with your hands. Try to keep nice and straight. Deep breaths. Deep breaths. Now into plow position. Hover your legs over your head. If possible, your feet can touch the floor. And now it's time for Karna Padasana, ear pressure pose. Deep breaths, deep breaths, deep breaths. And instead of the upward lotus pose, I put my feet into butterfly legs for Urdhva Padmasana. Deep breaths, deep breaths. And now into Padasana, embryo pose. Try to get your legs as close to your head as possible, like a little embryo. Deep breaths. Deep breaths. Deep breaths. Deep breaths and release. And now get into Matsyasana, fish pose. Lift your chest. The crown of the head goes to the floor. You're up on your elbows. Deep breaths. Deep breaths. And now the same fish pose with straight legs. Deep breaths. Deep breaths. And release. And next, it's time to do one more vinyasa. So swing yourself up and into our last vinyasa. So exhale, plank. Inhale, Urdhva Mukha Svanasana. Exhale, Adho Mukha Svanasana. Deep breaths. And now we prepare for shoulder stand. So I have this little towel to help. And arms by your side. Crawl up like in dolphin pose. Lift your sit bones. Get those hips right over your head. and lift into a headstand. Slowly, you see me lifting my legs. Slowly, slowly. Deep breaths and exhale and release. And now immediately go into the counter pose of Balasana. Deep breaths, deep breaths. Deep breaths. Deep breaths. I'm really catching my breath here. Deep breaths. Now let's get into Padmasana or lotus legs. I am modifying with one foot in my hip. So I'm grabbing my blocks to prepare. But first, let's do some meditation and really think about what all we've done in this practice thus far. I personally am very proud of myself. Ashtanga is a difficult class. Now we're going to push ourselves up and hold for 10 seconds. Core engaged. Lift your legs. Breathe. Deep breaths. Deep breaths. Deep breaths. You got this. And release. Now bind behind your back and forward fold. Deep breaths. Deep breaths. And let's modify, or let's reposition your hands behind your back and forward fold again, because we weren't quite sure we got it right the first time. Deep breaths. Deep breaths. Gotta get that bind right sometimes. And this is such a nice, relaxing pose after a difficult practice. Now, lay back into position for Shavasana. I'm covering my eyes, arms by my side, either palms up for grounding or palms down for grounding or palms up for receiving. We're going to stay here for a few minutes. Start wiggling your fingers, wiggling your toes. Lift your arms over your head for a full body stretch. When you're ready, turn to your right side and place your head on your forearms. Deep breaths, deep breaths. Deep breaths. Now push yourself up into an easy seated position. The light in me honors the light in you. Namaste. Thank you for practicing with me today.